Hello everyone and welcome back to another video here on the channel. Today we're going to be talking about Yorgos Lanthimos' latest film, Poor Things, starring Emma Stone, Willem Dafoe, Mark Ruffalo, and of course, Ramy Youssef. And this is a movie that is extremely weird, but also extremely profound and deep, and has so many meanings with so many great performances, and the costume design is perfect, and the cinematography and the sci-fi nature of this film and the imagination that is also in this film is so incredible that I really hope that this ends up being a big Oscar contender this year, because this is easily one of my favorite films of the entire year and probably my favorite film from Yorgos Lanthimos. And after moving to LA, I get a chance to see a lot of these smaller indie movies, in its early limited release, and so I have seen this movie, and it's not released in a lot of different cities across the country, but I do believe its wide release should be this upcoming weekend. So I will be talking about spoilers for this film because I think there is a lot to talk about in here that I do want to get into. I don't want to be held back in talking about and exploring all the ideas that are presented in this film. And so if you've not seen this movie, I highly recommend that you check this out as soon as it becomes available in your city, because it is definitely worth a watch. But let's get into Poor Things. So what is this film about? Well, essentially it follows Belle Baxter, played by Emma Stone, and this is essentially a Frankenstein-like story where, the mad scientist played by Willem Dafoe as Godwin is the one who discovers this body at the bottom of a river and sees that this woman was pregnant with a child, and so he takes the brain of this child and injects it and puts it inside the body of Emma Stone's character and zaps her back to life. And so it's essentially a story of this unborn baby exploring life for the first time, but in a very unique way because she is already fully grown physically. And so it's kind of about the mind catching up to the body. It's about exploring life in a very naive and very unconventional way, looking at things at a different perspective and exploring all the good, the bad, the nasty, the weird, the gross, all the intricate details of life that has never been explored by this character before. And so it is a deep introspective of what it means to be a woman in the world, but also what it means to be alive in general, to be a person in this world of all these weird intricacies and how society works in general. And it is, again, it's a very profound film when it comes to its exploration of all of these ideas. But also there's weird goats with heads of geese in this movie. There's weird creations, there's weird physical designs, there's Emma Stone, doing flips and spinning around in circles and talking nonsense for the first 30 minutes of this film. It is extremely bizarre. If you think of the mind of a child and an adult, grown woman's body, you get to have a lot of fun, as Emma Stone playing this character. She gets to be free and let loose and just do all these wacky things for the first 30 minutes of this movie. But when she is presented with this opportunity to go out into the world by Mark Ruffalo's character, she jumps at that idea because she wants to explore these more quirky things about her personality. The fact that she's constantly horny, that she constantly wants to have sex, and she even says it in the trailer, if you've seen the trailer, that's why don't more people do this all of the time. She has so much energy as this new creation that she wants to explore all of these things, but she's also going to be taken advantage by all the people around her, and this is going to give her a chance to look at all of these people in her life influencing her in different ways and kind of take a step back and decide, no, I don't like this, or yes, I do like this, or I understand your motivations, or I don't understand your motivations. I want to explore why I don't understand that. I want to explore why society looks down on women who decide to, sell their bodies for money. All these different ideas in this film to explore this character's journey through life in general. And again, as an experience from a woman's perspective, living this life that is very unconventional is a very interesting idea to follow. But let's kind of go through this story and how things progress, because, there's all these interesting characters that kind of introduce herself into Belle Baxter's life. And so, of course, you have the mad scientist character. You have Godwin, who she refers to as God, essentially. He is her creator, her father in a lot of ways, and he wants to keep her locked up in this house forever, not wanting her to go out into the world because he's afraid of what will happen if she gets out into the world, whether he is worried about her well-being or if he cares too much about his creation. He kind of has this idea, this God complex type of conflict within his character where he cares about Bella quite a bit, and he is conflicted with caring about this character because he doesn't want to have a personal connection with his creations. He just wants to create and have no personal attachment because he doesn't want to be hurt when things go wrong. He doesn't want to be hurt when this character leaves, his life, essentially. And so you have this character that is very controlling, again, over this character, not wanting her to explore life to her fullest. And then you have his assistant, played by Ramy Youssef, who is also phenomenal in this film. He's very quirky in this film, but he's the assistant of this mad scientist scientist, and he's, really in awe of Bella Baxter right from the beginning. And he kind of goes along with this plan to kind of keep her contained. Godwin, essentially offers for him to marry Bella Baxter in order to, learn all these things about her and do all these things with her as kind of an experiment to help keep her inside of this enclosed space. And, he's kind of conflicted with this idea, but he's also willing to go with this idea as well. And so when you have Mark Ruffalo's character is essentially the lawyer that is writing up this contract that's essentially binding her to stay at this home forever, to not be able to leave this house whatsoever, he's curious to see what kind of woman is willing to agree to this sort of deal, because he's also a very controlling person, a very manipulative person that just wants to have a wife essentially that he can control in every aspect of her life, to have sex whenever he wants, to go out to all these dinner parties to make himself look better in front of his rich friends, and again want to have sex all the time. And so when he sees this contract, when he writes it up, he's very curious to see what kind of woman would do this sort of thing, and he kind of whispers in her ear that there's this whole world that you should explore before you get married, and he convinces her essentially to run away with him. And despite Godwin and Max's best efforts, they can't stop her from leaving this place, and they allow it to happen, and she goes off into the world with Mark Ruffalo, who Mark Ruffalo in this film is nuts. He is just fully just letting loose and just doing whatever he wants to do. His expressions, his performance, the way he reads his lines, the way that he plays his character is so funny. It is so entertaining, and he's just the worst person ever. He does all these terrible things. He's so controlling and manipulative, but at the same time, you can't help but to respect the guy because he's just absolutely nuts. He's so funny and engaging in this role that you can't help but to be drawn to his character the entire time. And yeah, he's a terrible person, but I had fun watching him on screen, and I have a feeling that Mark Ruffalo had a lot of fun playing this character because he's just wild. He does not care whatsoever, or maybe he cares a bit too much about Bella Baxter because of his obsession that he gets once Bella decides to leave him at the midway point in this movie. But I do like their dynamic with each other of, Mark Ruffalo trying to control her to do certain things and her realizing like, no, I don't like that. Why would I sit at this dinner table eating food I don't like when I can spit it out? Why would I sit here and try to pretend to have this fun conversation when I can say, no, I don't care about what you're talking about. I want to go over there and dance. I want to go punch this baby that's over there because this baby is annoying me. I think this was very integral in her journey to decide who she wants to be, because yes, she could have gone along with all these things, this societal pressure, this pressure that, Mark Ruffalo's character is imposing upon her in this story, and she doesn't want to do that. She does not care, and I think that is clearly represented in the dance sequence also in this dinner party scene, because she doesn't care how people perceive her. She doesn't care if she's the weirdest person in the room, or if she's doing things that are outlandish, or people will scratch their head or wonder what in the world is wrong with this person, because she's just fully free at this point in her life, and she's having the time of her life doing whatever she wants. And that dance sequence, there always is a dance sequence in independent movies that's elevate it to a different level for me. If there's a weird dance sequence in a movie, it's that type of movie. It happened in Duel, it happened in Fresh, it happened in Ex Machina, it happens in so many movies like this, but this one was one of the more wacky and just wild dance sequences that I absolutely loved. And so like I said, she decides to leave Mark Ruffalo's character because of how controlling he is, because of how stressed he is about money. She even at one point decides, okay, you're stressed about money, I'm gonna get rid of all your money. Now you have nothing to be stressed about. Now we can go off and do things, we can have fun again. But then of course that's not going to make Mark Ruffalo's character happy whatsoever, so she decides, with the help of some other characters kind of motivating her to go off and do different things, to go to Paris and to explore the world in different ways. She decides to leave Mark Ruffalo behind, and she decides to sell her body, and why not? She needs money. She's learned that much in her life so far, that you need money to survive in this world, and she also loves having sex, so why not combine the two and make $1 doing something that she loves? And so she decides to become a whore essentially, and she unabashedly loves this job. She complains about the things that she doesn't like about it, about how these creepy men are kind of coming in and deciding who they want to have sex with, instead of the women deciding who wants to essentially have sex with this person that's coming in to this place to solicit sex out of all these women. And she finds that to be wrong. She doesn't like that aspect of it, and she doesn't care if she's going up to the person who owns this whorehouse and says that she doesn't like this idea, and she wants to change the way that things work. She wants to change the perception that these people have in this whorehouse whorehouse, about how they're perceived by the men who come in. And even though that doesn't really work, she's like, okay, well, I need to make the best of this. So when these men come along, I can ask them some questions to get to know them before I have sex with them, or are going to kind of go with all the weird things that they want to do because, you know, this is what I need to do to make money. And she just is out of complete lack of being judged by anybody else. She does not care. She has no worry about how she's being perceived because she is fully and entirely has full autonomy over who she is. And I think that is another very important aspect of who this character is in her journey in discovering what life means for her. And of course, you're going to have Mark Ruffalo show up every once in a while to scream Bella at the top of his lungs. Desperately trying to call out to her at the bottom of her balcony, which, again, Mark Ruffalo, hysterical in this film. But, you know, Bella's completely satisfied with where her life is at this point. You know, she's making money. She's going to school with that money that she's making. She's learning knowledge. She's learning how to speak more coherently and more properly at this point in her life. And she's, you know, gained relationships with people at this place that she's living in. She has a great kind of dynamic with the owner of the whorehouse. She has this great dynamic with another one of the women at this place that I think is very sweet as well. And I think that she is very satisfied with where she is at this point. But, you know, of course, you're going to have the subplots kind of converge with the main plot with, you know, Godwin creating a different, you know, character, bringing another character back to life from the dead, and, you know, having no attachment with this person, being like, I don't want to make any attachments because I'm so heartbroken over what happened with Bella, that he just is kind of pushing everything else away in his life. And Ramy Youssef clearly sees that this character is in torment, and he wants to go find Bella because, you know, Godwin is dying, and he wants Bella to be there at his deathbed. And so he goes out, he finds Bella and brings her home, and essentially, you know, they have a conversation. They decide to go with the marriage that was planned all along. And, you know, Ramy Youssef, being the type of character that doesn't pass judgment about the people around him, is a perfect match for her. She's happy about it, and she's willing to go with this marriage all along, and has a great, you know, goodbye to Godwin at this point. But then, of course, her actual past catches up to her with her, you know, original husband that happened before Bella jumped off that bridge and took her life at the beginning of the story. And this is where you get the backstory of who this character was before all the events of this film in general. I think this is where things become very, you know, interesting, because she, you know, abandons the wedding because she needs to figure this out. She can't move on. She can't settle down without, you know, discovering everything about her life in general. You know, she's kind of figured out how society works. She's kind of found her place in it, how she wants to better the world in general with her presence and with her knowledge and helping all these other people around her. And so she's satisfied with that point in her life, but she doesn't know her history. She doesn't know her mother, essentially. She doesn't know where she truly came from. And so when this guy shows up saying that he's her husband and, you know, drags her away to this mansion out in the middle of nowhere, he is an even worse person than Mark Ruffalo's character. He is so entirely controlling and just disgusting and just literally the worst type of human being he could possibly be. And you can see why this character was driven to the point where she threw herself off a bridge, because she found herself pregnant. She found herself at a dead end in her life, not being able to escape the tyranny of this abusive husband of hers. She's not able to, you know, go with this pregnancy because she doesn't want this pregnancy, and there's nothing in the world that she can do about it besides, you know, throw herself off this bridge. And it's a very heartbreaking realization that Bella has about where she came from that really does break her. And she doesn't necessarily, you know, love the idea that, you know, Godwin kept all this information from her, but, you know, this is a part of her journey of learning who she was. And so she respects Godwin still, even though she is hurt by the decisions that he made, keeping all these secrets from her at this point in her life. And it's a very interesting way to see how she reacts to all these things, because she doesn't pass judgment on these decisions. She just kind of goes with it. And I found the escape of this mansion from her abusive husband to be very entertaining as well, of her, you know, kind of taking him out and dragging her all the way back to Godwin's, you know, laboratory so she can do what she's learned from Godwin about these experiments, about how she can swap the brains of one creature to another creature in order to do these things. And by the end of the movie, you get to see this husband character just kind of like on all fours, just eating a leaf off a plant and bang like a goat's, because now she took the goat's brain and put it in his body, because that's what he's reduced to. He's reduced to an animal who he truly was at his core, and that's what he deserved, because Bella doesn't care about all these things. She just, like, the world as she sees it is exactly how it needs to be. And so what is he? He's an animal. That's what he deserves to be by the end of this story. And of course, Godwin dies. She marries Ramy Youssef's character, and she is satisfied with her life at that point by the ending of the film. And again, I think this is a movie where I can kind of guide you through this story, but I think actually watching the movie and picking apart pieces of this film and kind of deciphering it yourself and your perspective and your viewpoint on what it means to you as a story, because, you know, I'm not going to have the same experience watching this movie as a woman is going to have watching this story of, you know, exploring these aspects of her life from a very unique and specific perspective that Bella has over the world that is very distinct to certain people. And I read one review from Zoe Rose Bryant, who is a phenomenal, you know, critic online. I love her Letterboxd. I love her articles that she writes on movies, and she wrote a beautiful article about how it kind of mirrors her experience as a trans woman and how she truly felt seen by the character of Bella Baxter, you know, kind of being in the experience where, you know, she reached a point in her life where she had to essentially kill the past version of herself to become who she truly was, and then she got to essentially relearn who she was through this new identity of hers. I just think it's an absolutely brilliant article. I think you guys should all read it. I highly recommend clicking the link in the description to see all the words that she wrote, this beautiful article that she wrote about this movie, because this movie has an impact on everybody who watches it in a different way. And for me, at least, I found it to be a profound experience of looking at life in a lens of just non-judgment and figuring out what in the world your place is in this world and how you're going to make the most of it. And I found it to be an absolute beautiful story that, again, the production design, the costume design, the cinematography, the weird fisheye lens choices that the director has for this movie. I think the direction is great. I think the performances are out of this world. I really hope Emma Stone has a great chance at winning an Oscar for her performance in this, because she is truly phenomenal in this. I really hope Yorgos Lanthimos gets a director's nod for this movie as well, although I do hope Nolan wins for Oppenheimer, because somehow Nolan has never won an Oscar for Best Director. But, you know, Yorgos Lanthimos does a phenomenal job in this movie as well. I think this movie is easily going to take the production design category at the Oscars. Maybe it has a chance at cinematography, maybe not with some other movies that are also in the category, but again, with performances, you know, it's very highly likely that, you know, Mark Ruffalo might be nominated for this movie, and even Willem Dafoe might be nominated for this movie for Best Supporting Actor, and that supporting actor race is going to be absolutely insane once we get to the Oscars. But I really hope that this movie has a strong presence when it comes to award season, because it is truly a unique movie. Yes, like I said, I compared it to Frankenstein at the beginning, but it is so much more than just a Frankenstein type story told from the lens of, you know, Yorgos Lanthimos' weird perspective on the world. And so I really love this movie, and I really hope you guys check it out when it does reach its wide release in theaters, and it is truly something else. But that's going to be it for my review of Poor Things. I'm definitely curious to hear all your thoughts in the comment section down below about the things that you loved about this movie. Maybe you didn't love this movie. Maybe this movie wasn't your cup of tea. Maybe it wasn't, you know, in your wheelhouse. Maybe it didn't vibe with your type of movies that you do enjoy, because it is, again, weird and out there, and it's probably not for everybody, but it definitely was for me. And if it was for you, I definitely want to hear all your thoughts on it. So like I said, comment down below. And if you did enjoy this review, make sure you guys leave a like on the video, and also subscribe to the channel to see more reviews just like this one. It's getting to award season. We're getting a bunch of limited releases here in LA that I want to talk about. I saw the Iron Claw. I'm seeing Ferrari next week, so I'm definitely going to have reviews out for a bunch of stuff here in the future. So lots to see here on the channel. Like I said, comment down below, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you all in my next one.